This podcast is brought to you by Harry, the employee experience platform built for the front line. This podcast is brought to you in association with A2H Solutions, your premier destination for tailored strategic recruitment solutions. A2H, connecting talent and opportunity seamlessly.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Candid Hospitality, your anonymous matchmaker for hospitality careers. Sign up in secret today at candidhospitality.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Talking Talent podcast, the podcast for talent professionals. As you probably know by now, my name is Ben Sewell. I'm joined by my glamorous, sleepy assistant, Mr. Dale Taggart. How are you?
I am good, Benjamin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. We're kind of following on our theme of Wreckfest a little bit this week. Because we've got our new Wreckfest best friend that we managed to actually meet in person, which was lovely. So we've got the amazing Mel Kelly joining us. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Thank you for jumping on to do a recording. I know it's a little bit later on a Tuesday evening. And I know both yourself and Dale, it's way past your bedtimes by the time we finish this. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on nonetheless.
No problem.
It's going to be a good one.
Wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here with you guys on a rainy Tuesday night.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. But this is when we know we've made it. People actually want to give up their time to talk to us and not just, go to bed on a Tuesday night. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, just for those who are listening or if you're watching us on YouTube, Mel, can you just give us a little bit of an intro to yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, I'm Mel Kelly and I'm now the founder of MK Talent Advisory. It's a business that I set up nearly 1 year ago now. So next month's going into my second year. And so what I do is I work with, at the moment, mainly scaling businesses who are looking to grow their headcount, but maybe don't have the right recruitment structures and processes and foundations really to be able to do that successfully. And my background is talent acquisition. So I've been in talent acquisition for 15 years. Don't know how that's happened or how it's been that long, but I come from a big business, kind of big corporate enterprise sized businesses, and so kind of going out on my own has been quite the journey over the last year.
Amazing. I love that little intro. You've got a really interesting background from the TA side of things. You've worked in probably it's fair to say polar opposite industries, pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah. When I got to PwC, I was like, how am I here? What am I doing here? Because I actually started off in the travel industry. So I was actually in a completely different career. And then when I got to 23 or so, I got a job as a HR assistant for Sunsail, which is part of the TUI group. And did that for 6 months. And then the head of recruitment for Crystal Ski, which is a skiing company, came down to the Portsmouth office, which is where I was living at the time. And he said, I'm looking for a recruiter. And I was like, I'll do it, because I wasn't really enjoying the HR job. And so I moved up to Kingston and started my recruiting career there, really. But yeah, I worked in travel and tourism for 5 years. Then I went into hospitality for a bit. I actually was in hospitality as a young, I say youngster. I was actually still a barmaid at 20. Then did hospitality recruitment and then spent 7 years at PwC in a variety of roles, but all focused around recruitment and talent acquisition. So bit of a journey and a bit of a culture shock when I moved into professional services, but hey, you adapt.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how's that transition, and what was the sort of big differences from a culture piece?
So I was referred into PwC. I've said this a million times. I don't think my CV on its own would have made it through the front door because my background just wasn't in professional services. and I didn't go to uni or anything like that. And, going back 7 years now. And so I got referred in, which was great because I got to kind of go in and meet the team. And that's when I got to kind of get myself over the line. But yeah, I guess it was just, coming from travel and tourism and hospitality, there's no money in any of it, in terms of there's no budget for recruitment. So you have to be pretty bloody creative in those industries to get the people that you need on a really, small budget. And you're doing everything, right? You're all things to all people. And then going to PwC, and there's a team for everything, there's a process for everything. There's money in the budget to throw at agencies or into advertising and attraction. And yeah, it was like, wow. I would ask about, I don't know, background checks or what have you. And they'd be like, oh, no, we don't do that. There's a team for that. And you'd be like, okay, that's cool. Where are they? Who are they? So yeah, I guess it was the infrastructure, like the sheer numbers that were, present, and yeah, it was really different from that respect as well.
Oh, love that. Yeah, I think hospitality. Obviously, I can't speak about travel, but like reference checks and background checks just don't really happen. Like,
No.
Obviously, everyone knows everyone. You start be like, "Oh, mate, can you give me a bit of info on this guy?" Like, yeah, or this girl, and they're like, "Yeah, they're really good. Worked here from that. Cool, thanks." And that's it. That's literally it.
Yeah. It's someone's head chef or someone's ex, maitre d' or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know this person," or "Oh yeah, we know them. Don't go near them," which obviously isn't.
It's not the way to go. So if you are listening,
it's very subjective. But yeah, that's exactly what would happen in the past.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm not saying that it happens still. Of course, my lips are sealed on that. We don't share it.
Oh yeah, I'm going back a very long time when I was doing that. So at least probably about 10 years. So things have changed massively, thank God, since then.
Dale with his HR hat on is absolutely going mental at us right now for saying that.
I'm just gonna smack you on the wrists after the podcast. I'm sure you're at least doing the right to work checks though, Ben, right? Come on.
Oh, absolutely! Like right to work check, you can't skirt around that. They've got to be, they've got to be legal. But there's certain industries where people just know people, and you can't go to an HR department and just ask for references anymore. Like, what's a reference realistically worth? What do you actually gain out of that? For me, it's just confirming job title and tenure.
Yeah,
it doesn't. No one's going to give you a performance because you don't legally have to do that, do you?
Yeah,
it's safer to not do it that way.
Yeah, you're not really meant to do that. Yeah. It is really, was this person employed during this time? Great, and like you've got a record of where they've been, but yeah, they're not really worth the paper they're written on, and certainly shouldn't be taking any subjective feedback.
No,
and in
course.
PwC, there was compliance, independence. That those checks were really comprehensive, and took a long time. And if you're more senior, then the longer they would take. So very rigorous checks in the professional services world, thank goodness.
Pre-employment checks are just the bane of my life sometimes.
Yeah.
I once added a whole HR team from one company just to try and get someone to do a reference for someone. It's just insane these days how slow some companies are just to give a factual reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's going above and beyond, Dale. I add everyone. Like, somebody please help me.
It was like one person a day. Like, okay, that person has ignored me. I'll go and add this person. Let's see, well, no one wanted to respond to me. Even calling up their office and everything. I was dedicated. We wanted to get this person in. She had a 3-month notice period, man. Like, clocks are ticking.
I love the dedication, mate. I do love the dedication. Look, Mel, this episode is pretty much all about you, your backgrounds, your knowledge, and your insights as well. So, what you're doing at MK Talent Advisory at the moment is it's a bit of a kind of a new thing within talent. I think that's fair to say. How did that all kind of come about? How did you sort of analyse, almost a gap in the market and go, this is what I want to do?
So, as I mentioned, I've been in TA for about 15 years. And I was a senior manager at PwC, so I led a line of service, and I managed a big team of like 20 odd people, and that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done from a management perspective, because team management is really hard when you're also trying to do your job and strategy and what have you. And I learned a hell of a lot, starting on the ground as a recruiter, earning my stripes, and getting up to a senior manager at PwC was no easy task. But so I've learned the ins and outs of process, being, as I mentioned, being creative, working with systems that don't work, looking at those workarounds, laughing, hiring manager issues, people not coming back to you, them not being trained properly, spending your life just trying to manage the chaos, really, and that can ensue in recruitment. And so I think, first of all, my knowledge and my experience going from different sectors that I have, going from no money, being creative, to you've got every resource at your fingertips to be able to execute recruitment, has given me a really good broad knowledge and experience of how to do TA well. So there was, just before I left PwC, I was thinking, it would be great to be able to kind of bring big business insights into smaller business or scaling businesses that don't have those foundations, that could really do with this is what works. I've tried and tested it in smaller businesses within, the TUI group. They were the umbrella company, but they had hundreds of smaller businesses. So like I worked in tiny businesses really, but under a bigger umbrella. So basically, I've got a range of experience. So I've kind of tried and tested a lot of things that work and don't work. But I also spent 2 years as a management consultant. It's probably the best way to describe it, which was within the mergers and acquisitions team at PwC. So it was the people in deals team. So they worked on all the people elements of a merger or acquisition for a business. And they needed someone with recruitment expertise. So I interviewed and I moved over internally to the M&A team. And there I was a true consultant. So I worked on billion-dollar transactions, where, worked on the Unilever carve-out for their tea businesses. They needed to hire 1,000 people in 6 months to IPO the business and also stand it up as an organisation. So I went in and helped them set a strategy that would allow them to actually achieve those hires in those 6 months. They had their own recruitment team. I was there to set the strategy to say, this is what's going to slow you down. These are what your risks are. This is where your opportunities are. And if we follow this kind of strategy, we'll achieve what we need to. And then working with the global TA teams to kind of direct them and get them in place, as well as working with their, CPOs and heads of recruitment. And I did that on a number of occasions. So I also did the recruitment strategy for GSK when they were separating consumer health, which is now Haleon. Same kind of situation where they needed to hire a lot of people and they needed a strategy to do it. And basically I did that across a number of businesses for a couple of years. And I loved it. I absolutely loved being a consultant. I loved going in and working with different teams, different projects. It changed every 6 months or so. So I was thrown into something completely new. And, I'd never worked in pharmaceuticals or FMCG or what have you, but you have to learn really quickly what impacts that market, what strategies you need to or how you need to flex your approach basically in order to achieve the end result. And so I learned a lot working in consulting for PwC, and obviously the standards are incredibly high. How you consult the deliverables, the outputs. There's a purpose to this really long story. But basically I went back into TA and I was a senior manager for a year and a bit, and then there was rounds of redundancies happening, and I'd always thought about going into consulting and doing this myself and taking all my experience from TA plus my consulting experience and going, there's a market for this, because I'm going into global businesses and setting their strategy like with them and for them. And so I thought, well, if this is a problem at a global FTSE 100 enterprise business level, then there must be other businesses that are going through mergers, going through being like being acquired and having these integration problems with two companies, or needing to scale quickly but not having the foundations to do so, and probably spending a bunch of money with recruitment agencies as well. And so I thought, that's where I want to be. So I took redundancy. And I say took because it was actually a voluntary redundancy situation. So I put my hand up and said, yeah, it's time for me to go. And then MK Talent Advisory was born, and that's this kind of space that I've been in for the last year, and working with clients doing exactly what I set out to do, really. Not so much in the M&A space, but very much in the scaling, scale up space.
That sounds honestly like incredible. What an experience that is as well. You know, huge organisations, basically you're just like, no, just listen to me. This is what I'm telling you to do, and you'll be successful. I'll make you a shit ton of money, basically, and everything will work fine.
Yeah.
And you're like, I could do it on my own now. It's much better.
Yeah, trust me, it's fine. It built a lot of confidence as well, because, people are paying PwC a hell of a lot of money to go in and do this stuff. And so the best people are working on these transactions. And so to be part of that team, I felt incredibly proud to do that, and also had to be very confident and believe in what I was suggesting basically in my recommendations. But the foundations that I've built in TA just came through every time. And, I think you only really understand how TA works when you've been on the ground as a recruiter and you've done the hard work, where you know what slows you down day to day. I wouldn't have the insight I have today if I just went straight into a senior role. I kind of needed to, be on the front line, blood, sweat and tears, my stripes. And then, to really understand, well, actually, some of the things aren't even that, clever or inspired. It's just, if you don't have interim hiring managers to interview all these people that are going into teams that don't have a head of yet, guess what? You're not going to interview anybody, and your time to hire is going to slow right down, and you're not going to have anyone. And it's like, oh yeah, so who is going to step in and do all those interviews? You're like, it sounds really basic, but these are some of the things that, I've seen slow down processes in the past where they haven't thought about who are all those interim hiring managers that will build a sales team without the sales director being present, because guess what? They're going to take a hell of a lot longer to hire than the actual staff that are in that team. And so it's just thinking ahead of those types of things that slow us down. So yeah, as I say, a lot of it isn't rocket science, but it's just, you've been there, you've done it, so you know that these are the bits that slow you down and cause bottlenecks. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Mental. I'm just like, okay, well, I've done way more than I've ever done. So, off the back of that, you've been around a bit, Mel.
I have.
how do you see the different roles that exist within the TA space? Obviously, I think it's changing, all the time. You've got recruitment ops and talent ops, whatever else as well. But what are the kind of key roles that you see within the TA space that you think are important, some that you may think are maybe dying out a little bit, and what's your kind of viewpoint on the state of talent acquisition in this country at the moment? Obviously the market isn't great, but we all know.
No, I might do this.
Sorry, Ben.
I might do it as a two-parter and answer the second part of that in a sec. That's a juicy one. But yeah, the roles in talent acquisition in general, and as recruiters, they've evolved a lot over the years, and I think the expectation on people within these roles has really changed. If you're a TA leader working with an agency, you're not looking for them just to fill your jobs anymore. You want market insights, you want reporting, you want data, you want diversity and inclusion statistics, you want more than just transactional, here's some candidates, off you go. And so I think that relationship has changed an awful lot for the better. I think those relationships are really important to have. I always see there's a need for agencies at some point because of the roles that we have and the niche markets that there are. Like in-house, you just a lot of the time you're very broad. You're across a lot of different competencies and capabilities. So having a very niche network is quite difficult. So I think that role has changed to be way more of as a partnership, which I think is good. It's a really good change. Obviously, we're seeing more people going into like embedded talent acquisition now. We've got your RPO providers and all of that, which is kind of just staying the same. And again, from a big scale perspective, that works. Or if you're small enough and you want someone else to just outsource it to, then that's great. But I think the change is more around the in-house models and their embedded talent. So actually, you only need to bring in a team when you're going through a big project, you're scaling, and actually you just want a team to come in and fill the jobs. And then after that's been achieved, you can they'll go off and do something else. The other thing I've seen a lot more of, and I don't know if Chapter 2 and Lyra Harrison's and business and Steve Bartlett investing in that business is started to create a bit of a boom. I kind of call it the trifecta, where you've got traditional recruitment, embedded, and talent advisory. And that kind of model is becoming way, way more popular. I guess the only thing with that model is for that to be done really effectively, you need to have 3 very different experts in their fields, and I think sometimes that can be hard to find. And so you might find there's businesses that are launching, and quite a lot of people are doing that, where they'll naturally thrive in 1 or 2 areas and maybe not as good in the third area. And so I think that's just something I just see more of that now coming out. But I just think finding that blend of true expertise in those 3 areas is hard to find. Like I would class myself as a continuously improving expert. I'm never going to be an expert, but I'm always striving to be that, because things change all the time. But I've never claimed to be an expert recruiter that's going to fill all your jobs, because that isn't me. I'm not an agency recruiter, and that isn't my background. But if you want strategy and operations, come to me, because I'll get that sorted for you. But I think trying to find those other people can be difficult, but that is on the rise. And then obviously more people like me are popping up now, strategic consultants. And we are a bit of a rare breed at the moment, but I am seeing more people kind of come out in this space. But we don't really fit in a camp. We're not internal recruiters and we're not agency recruiters. So we're kind of just out in this grey area at the moment. We don't really fit in a pot. To the point where I've actually been I've registered for events, and I've registered once as a TA internal or like the similar event, but as a recruiter, and both have said, sorry, you can't come to this event because you're not either.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm like,
Wow.
well, where do I go? Where do I fit? Because I don't fit in the TA space because I'm not technically in-house, even though I guess the way I work is a bit embedded or fractional, because I go in and I'm with a business for a period of time and then I leave. But I'm not seeing like that. So I feel like I need to create a new network of independents that have no home.
Yeah, the black sheep of recruitment and talent, yeah? Have a little group.
But yeah, I think the TA market is becoming incredibly complex, as we know. We were all at Breakfast. We all enjoyed a lot of the talks, and one thing that we mentioned on the day was that it's just everywhere you go is AI. You can't move away from it, and that is the truth. That is where we're going, where we are. There's automation, there's skills first hiring, all of these things that are happening, and businesses need to be prepared for these things. And that's why investing in someone to come in and look at your operations and your strategy and identify actually where is AI going to help you and automation going to help you versus where is that human element going to be super valuable in driving your business forward so that you do have the skills for the future, that you can keep up with applications and all the other things that AI is making a bit difficult for us now. And so I think you need all these new ways of TA to be delivered, because depending on your model would depend on, which service is right for you. But I just think everything's changing so quickly. We need to be kind of agile and flexible within our businesses about how we deliver TA.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up that quite nicely. I think it is evolving so quickly. I think the use of AI, obviously I know we touched on it a couple of weeks ago, Dale, on the sort of RecFest kind of summary. It was basically AI Fest, as everyone seems to be aware of. But from a strategy advisory point, how, are there anything that's specific about AI that you would generally advise trying to integrate, or is there anything that you'd advise not to integrate as well equally, so that this is just not good for the business, or this is going to transform it?
I think it's just don't go out and buy it because it looks good. The one thing that I would urge every company to be doing is doing a deep dive on their recruitment processes, like genuinely end to end. So how do you find people? What are people resonating with around attraction? What's your employer brand saying? When you're getting applications in, what is the actual blocker there? Is it because you're getting too many applications, or you're not getting the right applications? And so I think as you move through a process, you will start to identify, actually, this is the bit that really slows us down, and this is where maybe AI can help us. Or actually, no, that's a training issue with a hiring manager, or that's a copywriting issue with recruiters not being able to write good job adverts, or what have you. And then you identify where AI is going to help you. I think one of the key things to mention, though, and I think everyone's really scared of AI and replacing our jobs in TA, but there's one thing that I've been reading a lot about it because I'm a geek like that, and I do keep up to date with as much as things as possible. But it did get me thinking with the AI legislation that's come in and the new EU Act, because ultimately what's that saying is that if you have an AI system implemented into your ATS that makes decisions for you, i.e. the recruiter doesn't say whether that person gets rejected or not, and I'm not talking about killer questions, I'm talking about AI rejecting candidates out of the system based on perceived skill, then businesses have to be able to prove the way in which that AI has made that decision and make sure that it's not biased or full of bias or rejecting people for the wrong reasons. And now AI is predictive, right? It will look at a load of patterns and then create a predictive outcome. It's most likely that this person would be better for the job. And I don't think a lot of companies really are doing that. And with the Workday thing that happened, people are probably now even more scared to kind of do that, because that's what their AI was doing. It was actively screening out people. And so ultimately, we've always had the problem, and this isn't a new thing. AI has amplified it, but we've always had a problem with too many applications. And as a recruiter going, I've had 200 applications overnight for something, and now I've got to get through those. And doing that daily, it's hard. And so to have AI that says these are likely to be the better candidates, great, but it's not making a decision for you. And so the only caution, and so it is good because it gives you a starting point. My only caution with that, and I always say to TA leaders and businesses, is the thing that AI is doing is it's basing it on skills and keywords and all these other things, but what it's not doing is identifying those transferable skills. And as a recruiter, we pride ourselves on, we can identify what a good CV is and what isn't a good CV. So I know I don't want AI to generate AI copied CVs, because I want to see the individual's CV and personality, layout, language, all of that stuff. It tells you a lot about a person. I also know that a project manager could just do the job of a salesman just as good because of transferable skills, you know. This might be a bad example, but, you know,
I know what you mean.
the talent of a recruiter is being able to say, look, hiring manager, you might not think this looks right on paper, but trust me, I think this person is going to be really, really good for X, Y, and Z reasons because of all these transferable skills. And I don't know if AI is at the point where it can do that. And so I don't think anyone's jobs are going to be replaced because there's too much legislation around AI making decisions for us. Plus, we still need to do our jobs as recruiters. And so I don't think that problem is going to get fixed anytime soon. Like it will get fixed, and then, you know, we'll think about other things. But the time it is saving us, we can be spending on so much other things. You know, can you now call your candidate and give them a proper briefing before their interview in 2 days' time? Can you really coach them through what's going to happen when they come in? Can you make sure they're really understanding, you know, what they're coming into? Can you spend more time with your hiring manager discussing the roles and responsibilities and who they're really looking for and challenge them, you know, in why they're trying to find the unicorn when that isn't going to exist? Spend more time on looking at insights and market intel to give more guidance and insights to where maybe they should be looking. You know, this is all the things that we can be doing as business partners to our businesses in TA, with AI taking some of the workload away, but not taking away from the fact that we still need to be recruiters and still have a really important role to play. So, yeah.
I think the key point I just want to kind of flag with what you said is recruiters and partnering, two very different things. And, you know, you can tell you're very much the partnering side. But, you know, there is so much that AI does to help us become partners. You know,
Yes.
If you are just, I say just a recruiter, I don't mean that with any disrespect or anything. But if you are, you know, a resourcer side of things and a recruiter, and you're just, you know, calling candidates, you know, screening them and putting them forward for interviews and things, that's great, and it will save you some time as well from that side. But I think as a partner, it alleviates a lot of the admin-heavy stuff. So as you said, you can focus on that kind of impact, that delivery side, and obviously, Dale, I know you're hugely, you know, passionate about the candidate experience side of things. That's the big thing, and it just frees up so much time to just enhance that sort of experience the whole way through, doesn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, I really think, you know, it kind of to echo what Mel was saying, it should be about utilising it to support us to do those more important things. So we're not bogged down in just the admin side, which, you know, sometimes if you know, you're in small organisations like I am, I'm all the hats, every single hat, just chopping and changing all the hats. And sometimes, you know, I still want to make sure, though, that I'm giving that candidate experience, you know, calling up candidates, you know, ahead of their interviews, seeing if they've got any questions, just, you know, getting people prepared, try and give people, you know, as much feedback as possible. Definitely calling candidates if they've come and interviewed with us, like, you know, they're given time on Teams, they're given time in person. They deserve me to give them a call to run through their feedback with them. And that's where we should be utilising the AI. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be some organisations who think you can replace us because they think they can replace anyone. And it's not going to work out. And literally, all I see is articles about so and so's cutting their workforce by 20%. So and so's cutting their workforce, and it's like, you think AI is going to do this, and then it's going to come back and bite them in the arse. And you know, it can't replace us. It can probably replace some of the bad people that maybe exist, like they exist in every profession, but. You know, it's not going to be able to... I don't think it'll ever be as good as a human in terms of picking up the nuances. Because if a human is applying, you know, they're going to have a different way of writing things. People come from different organisations that use different terminology, use different job titles. Yeah. They talk about their experience in a different way. That's just not going to be always picked up. Now, don't get me wrong... Maybe it'll get even more powerful and even, you know, more, you know, on the ball with it. But at least for the near future and even medium future, I still think there is a need for us, and we just embrace it. But not everything has to be AI. Like, I think we can still focus on, you know, still driving candidate experience, still driving employer brand, because employer brand, I think, is one of the most important things right now. You know, it's people are looking to socials, people are looking for jobs in different ways, and me and Ben obviously had Holly on in the last episode, and Gen Z are looking for different things. They're looking for jobs in different areas, and not your standard old, post a job on a job board and expect to get the candidates. It doesn't work like that. I'll be honest, half of the candidates I've filled in more senior roles recently have been from them seeing my posts on LinkedIn and them coming to me. I've had more success from that than my actual back-end searching and going sourcing candidates. It does work, and I think that's maybe where people should be using AI to support. But I'll get off my soapbox now, because I'll talk about it for ages, and it's not my episode, it's Mel's episode.
No, but I do agree. Like, I think the problem that I see in lots of businesses, and I've worked for some big brands, so this attitude of our brand sells itself or what have you is so it just doesn't happen anymore. And also, recruitment's a two-way street. And even though we're in an employer's market right now, it doesn't matter. It should always be a candidate-driven market in the way that you approach the market. You should always feel like you don't have enough candidates to fill your job, so that you take pride in what you're delivering. And I think also because I listened to that episode with Holly. It was fantastic, and I've been following her quite a while on LinkedIn. I just think, what an incredible young woman, and what she's doing, and really carving out a great space for herself. People are using AI to apply for jobs now, and they can go to bed and say, right, here's all however many platforms, apply for all my jobs. But that means that we as businesses have to change the way that we assess people, because people can say that they've got all these skills and they can get through our ATS systems, or not get through because there's still a recruiter at the other side, but they can rank higher because their AI is playing the system a little bit. And so when we assess people, we can't just have interviews face to face and say, tell me about your experience. Experiential is old news now. It's all about the skills and what you can actually do. And so I think assessments have to change to test the skills that people are saying that they have. And that's not just hard skills, because those skills are changing every couple of years, I think, now, what skills we need. Yeah, we need to be looking at, human skills, and what makes someone able to learn new skills. What are the characteristics and personality traits that you need for someone to be able to do that? And Arctic Shores, as you know, I'm a big fan of Robert Newbury and Arctic Shores and the work they do, but they call it the skills enablers. What are you testing in these people that mean, they might have the skills that you need right now, and maybe for the next couple of years, but that will change, and we know that's going to change. So how are you looking at how these people will adapt and grow with your business and be able to learn those new skills that you're going to need for the future? Because a lot of it you will train, because they don't exist yet. So you've got to build it somewhere. And so I do think the assessment side of things will change because of AI at the front end.
Yeah, do you know, that's really interesting, because I did notice there was a lot of assessment style companies at Wreckfest in particular. Yeah. Lots more than I ever sort of realised, to be honest with you. Like, obviously knew they existed, like psychometric testing, obviously back in the day. I know a few people use it, like personality tests and stuff that still come out. But yeah, it's a really interesting topic you've kind of touched on there, to be honest, because it all kind of leads back into that strategy side as well. Because if you are, as you work with, scaling businesses, will they be thinking that far ahead? Will they be thinking 3, 4, 5 years to prep the next set of skills, because they don't know what it's going to be yet? Have they got a strategy of where they want to be and what they're going to need? And is that realistically achievable as well, really?
Yeah, I think that's really... what... Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at more, assessments as well. And not a plug. They were already part of it. The company when I came in, but Test Gorilla, you see them everywhere. And I'm just trying to build different tests into the system, and you can build your own tests. And I think I'm getting a lot of people in the business to support me in what they want to test. And I think, you're right. Interviews, if they're done right, they can. But let's be honest, we do need to train a lot of hiring managers in how to interview. You know, you can build all the best interview packs in the world, but are they listening properly as well? Is, you know, you can give them the questions, but are they taking in the information correctly? So it's how do we also support that to ensure that we're testing the right things? And, you know, I know that some people say, oh, well, testing, you know, people don't want to be tested, or testing can be fair. It's like, well, let's build fair testing, but let's ensure that we are testing the right skill set. You know, I'm strong on value-based hiring as well.
Yeah.
Because that will tell you a lot about who someone is. If you want to bring someone into an organisation and you are a very, you know, collaborative culture, you know, and you feel like maybe you're on a bit of a journey and you need people that are going to be aiming high, and you want people that are going to be working as part of a team, and people that aren't afraid to, you know, ask the difficult questions, you need to tailor that to what you want. And sometimes testing will, you know, be a good indicator of that. Or sometimes like basic customer service, you know, sometimes those tests exist. I know not everyone's comfortable in doing the ones where they're being, you know, kind of videoed and stuff. And they're a little bit, when I have to go through them and have a look at people, feel like I'm prying in people's life sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do see a space for them. And I think, you know, I know people will push back and say, oh, well, I don't want to assess for a job. And I think, well, if you don't want to do a 20 to 30 minute online test, like, do you want the job? Or, you know, we should always still be testing that skill set. And if we have to be looking at it differently with some testing instead of just the age-old interview, then why not?
I think the common assessment though has come a long way since, you know, your old-fashioned psychometric testing, and I think, like you say, the value-based assessments and the behavioural side of it, and how I just think that, I mean, I won't speak on the assessments. I need to do more research into it, but I know that there's way more being developed now that aren't your psychometric tests, that are conscious of neurodivergent people, that do have things in place that allow people that needed reasonable adjustments to be able to still complete X, Y, and Z. And so I think we've come a really long way. And I think the thing with it is that it actually creates more transparency in your process, because what you're saying is, well, we want people that are going to be able to build the skills of the future, but also have these things. We want to know about you as a person, like what drives you, what are your values, what are your principles, how do you adapt to change, how do you take on new skill, and that's what we're testing for. And I think to what you're saying earlier, like whether smaller businesses are thinking that far ahead, you know, the last client I just worked with were a scaling tech company, looking to double their headcount, but they're only 150 heads now. And we were doing some skills gaps analysis. So we were looking at how they can start analysing the skills they've got in their business now, what capability those people are at, or the business is at in each of those areas, and where are some of the gaps for what their growth plans are over the next 5 years, and what skills gaps might we need to start bridging, and how does that affect the talent acquisition go-to-market strategy to say, well, okay, well, we actually know we want to grow in this space. Likely the skills will be X. What insights do we have on the market to say, where are these skills? And if we don't have them, what's our plan to get them? And so the work is starting to happen, but it's all very new to be able to do this. And it is very complex, and there's lots of things that you need to be thinking about. You know, you could do a skills taxonomy in your business, which is great. But you're not going to do a skills taxonomy every 2 years in a global organization, because the skills have changed. So you need to start thinking about it differently. So yeah, I mean, these subjects are huge, right? And this is what I find really interesting about TA and how the role we play in all these huge workforce shifts that are currently happening. It's a super interesting time, and I don't know what the future of TA is going to look like, but I think, you know, for us in TA, it's just always looking to see what value we can add, how we can use these tools to our advantage and embrace them, don't work against them, and just try and think, okay, well, if that can do this for me, what does that now allow me to do? And one other thing I'll mention is just on reports and insights and that AI and how cool that is, because, you know, I come from the days, and so do you guys, of you're sitting there with really bad data and you're trying to make sense of it. And then you've got to, you know, create a dashboard yourself and then create a story and then put that into an executive summary to give to, you know, your senior leadership teams. And it takes forever, you know, and then you've got to think of recommendations off the back of that. Like, what do I suggest you do to achieve X goal? And a lot of ATS systems now do have, or I know some that are building it, where you say, okay, tell me how many women made it through the process in this role. Okay, tell me how many women are dropping out at interview stage. Or, you know, that's just an example. Or where are we getting the best candidates from? You know, and it will give you summaries and insights. And that's the stuff that has taken previously a really, really long time, how to really analyze and storytell. So again, there's some benefits in that as well from someone that's had to do it very manually. I'm not saying that's going to disappear, because you still need to understand it. You can't just trust AI. But, you know, there are things that it's going to, you know, if you've got a white piece of paper, like blank page thinking, it gives you your starter for 10, and then you can build on it from there. And I think sometimes, you know, especially with reports, you can look at all this data and go, where do I start?
100%, yeah. And I think, to be honest, we could probably talk more about that for like another episode, to be honest, because it's such a big topic, as you rightly said. You know, in terms of how much can go into it beyond your standard data points. I know we've touched on it before on the pod about, you look at your standard, your time to hire, your time to recruit, like generally time to interview and things like that, time to onboard or whatever. They're kind of your standard metrics. But as you rightly said, you know, how many women from like this background, or how many women generally dropped out at this stage or got through, what percentage? If you're looking at sort of, you know, ethnic backgrounds, neurodivergent backgrounds, there's so much more involved in it now that we should really think about. You know, I know from RecFest, some of the things that are coming out, it's like ED&I wasn't necessarily a priority for a lot of businesses, but that could be your USP. That's what makes you different from your competitor, by saying that this is what we're doing. You know, we still care about these things. Here's the metrics to prove it. So there's lots that we can still touch on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've always said that diversity, equity, and inclusion for me has always felt like a fair weather sport in business. So when times are good and the money's coming in, then let's invest in D&I, and everyone shouts about it. And as soon as economies get tight and purse strings tighten, then D&I kind of falls off a cliff. I've always advocated for inclusive hiring, and at PwC I actually led the work stream for D&I recruitment. And between me and many other managers that were who were champions, we actually created a number of initiatives and stuff, and it was always ongoing. It was like an evergreen activity where we didn't stop to think about how we can be more inclusive. And it is something that I talk about a lot in what I do. So I've created a framework that I work to called the Impact Framework. It's an acronym, and the first one on there, I, is inclusive recruitment, and there's 5 others, but I call them the 6 like strategic recruitment enablers. So you've got inclusion, metrics and data, process performance, attraction, candidate experience, and technology. And those are the 6 levers that if you pull all of those and you optimize all of those, you're going to have the best process in the world. But your problems in recruitment or TA are typically going to fall into one of those categories. And so when you deep dive into each of those and then you look at it holistically, then you go, well, this is where your problem is. And these are the issues that you're having. And a lot of, you know, there's inclusive hiring is a huge part of that. But unfortunately, not everyone doesn't see it as important. They're like, oh yeah, we care about that, but that will be for future. So whether my clients like it or not, I always do a little deep dive into their inclusion and give my recommendations for continuous improvement. And it's always in the report because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it should be at the forefront, but it's not my job to tell people what to do, but it's how to enhance, and I can only give recommendations. But exactly. I think, just that human side, I think people are going to crave it more and more and more as AI becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. Look, as is customary on this podcast now, when we have people that have done recruitment, we have to ask you, what's the worst interview experience you've ever had? Either as a recruiter or as a hiring manager or interviewer or as an interviewee. Is there anything that sticks out?
I can tell you one that I had as an interviewee, which was the worst interview I've ever had. I actually thought I might cry at one point because this guy was just grilling me so hard.
Wow.
The only other one, I don't actually have any other really funny experiences. I've had hiring managers who have been diabolical, and I'm basically kicking them under the table because they've asked when someone's going to think about having children, or implied.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, you're around 20. Oh, yeah. So, 20 something. You just got married. So I suppose you're going to be having kids soon and what have you. I've had
Oh, my God.
the chairman of a company start talking about politics and asking their views on politics during an interview because he's a very political person. I've seen so many bad hiring manager experience, like examples. It's quite scary, but I won't mention any of the companies that those people are at. But
of course, no.
You're just like, oh my God, I want to be swallowed up. And you're like, okay, we need to move the interview on. I mean, that's really an inappropriate conversation. Just kick them under the table, like, just shut up. But yeah, the time I nearly cried was actually the only agency job I ever had, which was for 3 months. And I interviewed in Bank, where I think it was the old John Lewis used to be, and it was the offices above there. And I was asked what animal I'd be. I was asked what fruit I would be. And then I said I was a good judge of character.
Sorry, what fruit?
Yeah. I was like, surely this guy's joking. I don't understand. Like, what are you gaining from this? I think I blacked out because I don't even remember what I said, but I just felt like I was going to cry because I was like, what is this guy on about? Like, is he just taking the piss now? Honestly. And at one point I said, I say I'm a good judge of character. He goes, oh yeah? I went, yeah. He goes, go on then, judge me. Tell me, what's my character? And he made me analyse him there and then in the interview.
What did you say? Or do we end the recording and then you can answer that question off air?
I know, honestly, it's not worth airing, but the things this guy was asking me was just too much, and he was the owner of this business, and I just thought, and I did work there. I worked there for 3 months, and in the end, I was like, I'm done.
You took the job.
Yeah, not that good a judge of character.
Look, you got to make money, yeah? So,
yeah.
You know.
It's an experience, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, I was only like mid-20s. I was in London. I needed to pay the bills. And I really wanted to work in an agency because I wanted that other side. And then I did it for 3 months in like the most toxic place. And I was like, okay, that's it for me. So it's an unfortunate experience. But yeah, I've had some pretty interesting interviews.
We've all been there.
Wow. What a way to end the episode on that. That's perked us up at 9:30 on a Tuesday. But yeah, Mel, honestly, thank you for coming on today. You guys that are listening, I hope you've really enjoyed it. It's been really insightful. If you're a business owner, you're looking to get some advice on your talent strategies, all of Mel's details are in the episode description. So make sure you get in touch with her. Give her a follow. She's obviously clearly good at what she does. She knows her stuff clearly, as you can tell from today. But yeah, a massive thank you from us, Mel, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been very fun talking to you. You have to just stop me talking because I will just keep going. So, yeah.
I say between you and Dale, this could be 4 hours. So yeah, thanks guys. Take care.
See you later.
Cheers.